Hello, I'm Nancy Bell from Oshkosh Public Library, and this is Book Buzz, where I'll be taking one book that's been getting a lot of buzz on the bestsellers list, review sites, or social media, and I'll break it down into definable elements, then suggesting 3 books that have similar themes, writing styles, or characters, and overall general vibes. Today we're talking about Wish You Were Here by Jodi Picoult. It's her newest New York Times bestseller. It's been mentioned on Good Morning America as well as NPR. Diana O'Toole has everything going for her. Her surgeon boyfriend is probably about to propose. Her career is finally taking off. She's on the cusp of a major, possibly life-changing sale. But then everything goes off the rail. It's the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic, and so her surgeon boyfriend can't go on vacation with her anymore. But she is still encouraged by him to go alone. But then she's stranded on Isabella Island while the rest of the world closes down. And so during this time period, she is forced to reevaluate herself and her life as she makes a connection with a local family. So let's go ahead and break down the elements of Wish You Were Here that I'll be looking for in a read-alike. First of all, it is relationship fiction. These are characters who are seeking to find balance, accept loss, start anew. Diana is very clearly reevaluating her life during this time period. It is an issue-oriented storyline. The story explores controversial themes sometimes. It's including, emotional, ethical, or social problems. This book specifically looks and reflects on the pandemic, living through quarantine and lockdown. It's really moving. We're connecting emotionally with these characters and we're invested in them for this story. And it's a really engaging novel as we're connecting emotionally. The use of detail, the narrative style, it's engaging our imagination as we read. So we're going to be keeping track of those elements while we look at our first read-alike, which is A Beginning at the End by Mike Chen. So the world is recovering from a global pandemic that wiped out most of the planet's population. It's left the survivors paranoid and traumatized. Among these survivors are 3 San Francisco acquaintances who are trying to rebuild their personal lives. There's Rob, a widowed single father raising his daughter Sunny under the radar. Then there's Moira. Pre-pandemic, she was a pop star, but now she's attempting to live under the radar similarly, but she's been being hunted by the media for her father. And then there's Krista, who is an event planner who now tries her best to help traumatized people move on. But when Sunny runs away, these 3 acquaintances band together to track her down, even as the government warns of another pandemic throwing society into a panic. Okay, so let's take a look at the elements. So it's really character-driven. It's also an intricately plotted storyline. This book is all about the characters, even as the world is turning around them. It is full of character backstory and subplot. As the characters are dealing with consequences of their actions and decisions. It's bordering on relationship fiction. But it's really a pandemic apocalyptic fiction. It's not dystopian. It's told in this really hopeful tone that focuses on found family, similar to Wish You Were Here. And then it's also really compelling because we're drawn in emotionally to these 3 survivors finding their way through the world. And so it's those elements that make me believe that it's a perfect read-alike if you enjoyed Wish You Were Here by Jodi Picoult. Our second read-alike is Doctors and Friends by Kimmery Martin. This is not a COVID pandemic story, but it is a pandemic story. In here we start with Hannah, Kira, and Compton, who are 3 friends who became close in medical school. And to keep up with each other's hectic lives, it became tradition for them to reunite every year by taking vacation together. This year, it's a trip to Seville, Spain. But this is also the year of ardiovirus. And the outbreak of this fast-spreading virus throws the world and their lives into chaos. And so we're exploring their relationships and their present lives as they and the rest of the world have to experience all of these rapid changes due to a global pandemic. So let's go ahead and take a look at those elements. It is an intricately plotted storyline. We have 3 timelines that we're following. There's before, during, and after ardiovirus. And we're also following 3 different characters themselves with 3 connected but separate stories within hospitals and medicine and their own backstories and subplots, so it's really intricate. It's really moving. We have experienced some of the hardships that these characters have been through, and we can really connect emotionally to those experiences. It's very richly detailed. Surprisingly, this was actually written before the COVID pandemic. The author is a former ER doctor, and so those details really resonate with our COVID reality. But all of these elements really factor into making a good read-alike if you enjoyed Wish You Were Here. Our third and final read-alike is Summer of Lost and Found by Mary Alice Monroe. It's actually the 7th book in the Beach House series, but I think it can be read as a standalone read-alike for Wish You Were Here. We follow Linnea Rutledge of the historic Rutledge family in Charleston, South Carolina. She finally has her dream job, and she finally has the man she loves. But in spring of 2020, there are big layoffs, and so she is laid off from her aquarium position, and her boyfriend is stuck in London as the world shuts down. Linnea finds herself temporarily moving into the family beach house rent-free, as is her former flame John, who is quarantining at his mother's house next door. And so these characters have to deal with these very serious realities and complications of a virus, the pandemic, layoffs, finances, and so it also brings back around into that aspect of found family and isolation that we found from Wish You Were Here. And going off of that, let's go straight into the elements. So obviously this is relationship fiction. These are friendships and marriages that are about to be tested, and the characters are questioning themselves. It is also issue-oriented. There are environmental preservation themes, and also this is like a much more sensitive take on a global pandemic experience. It's really atmospheric. We are brought home to South Carolina with these heartwarming experiences as these characters struggle through the same challenges that we faced these past couple of years. And it's also really reflective as they also look at their choices and make changes for their lives. So it's these elements that make me believe that it'll be a good read-alike for Wish You Were Here. And those are the 3 read-alikes that I have for you today. If you liked this video, give it a like and subscribe to Oshkosh Public Library's YouTube channel for more content. If you have any suggestions or questions, please leave a comment. Or you can always get a hold of me at the library reference desk, which I'll link down below. Thanks for watching, and let's all get back to reading.